This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast, and this is episode 89 entitled How to Apologize with Jane Copier. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I have a great conversation that I recently had with my friend and coach colleague, Jane Copier, that I am excited to share with you today. But before I do that, I would like to tell you about a few things. First, I wanted to let you know that I recently did a workshop entitled Strengthening Your Relationship with God During the Holidays, and I recorded it. And this was such a great workshop and a great way to start the Christmas season. And this recording is available for purchase on my website for only $10. And it's the perfect time to focus on your relationship with God. So just click the link in the show notes to learn more about that. The second thing is I wanted to remind you of the two ways that you can work with me. The first way is in my one-on-one coaching program called the Season of Creation. We will work together for 12 weeks, a season, right? And we will work on ways to help you to become the creator of your life. You will no longer live like life is just happening to you, but for you. We will apply the concepts that I teach you to your individual personal situation. And you will leave our time together empowered to live a life you love without needing the people in your life to change. And the second way you can work with me is in my new beta group coaching program called the Season of Connection that will be launching in January 2024, and it will run for 6 weeks. And if you're curious about coaching and how it can help you, this is for you. If you're needing a more affordable coaching option, this is for you. If you are a midlife woman of faith who's ready to create greater connection in your life, this is for you. This group setting provides a beautiful space of learning and support. Group coaching can be so powerful as you hear other people's stories and you see other people getting coached. It helps you gain greater awareness of your own stories. From that place, you can begin creating the kind of relationships that you want to have. So what better way to start 2024 off right? As midlife women, it can be challenging to navigate the changes that occur in this season of life. We can begin to feel disconnected in our relationships with ourselves, others, and God. And if you're ready to create desired change so that you can love your life, either one of these programs are for you. You can learn more about each one of these programs by visiting the podcast show notes or on my website, www.seasons-coaching.com. Now on to this week's episode. I sat down with my friend Jane Copier and we talked about how to apologize and the power that comes from learning how to do it well. It was such a great conversation and I think you're going to really love it. Before becoming a Christian life coach and relationship expert, Jane's other areas of expertise included teacher at a drug rehab for teens, coach of elite club volleyball, master juggler as a mom of 4 kids, and a realtor for 23 years. She and her gorgeous hubby have 4 adult children and 4 darling grandbabies they adore, and they live in South Jordan, Utah. Jane's passion for growth and working with women led her to create her coaching program, the Empty Nest Academy, where she helps midlife moms not only figure out what comes next, but also makes the second half the best half. Jane loves Jesus, caramel, green smoothies, travel, meditation, and working out at her local rec center where no one dresses up to sweat. So here is my conversation with Jane Copier. All right. Here I am with my friend and coach colleague, Jane Copier. And I met Jane a couple of years ago at a life coach retreat, which was so fun, and just been getting to know her. And I'm so excited to share her with you. Jane, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and just tell us,
Perfect.
tell us about
Okay.
you, how you became a coach or why you did and who you work with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my name is Jane Copier, like you said, and I am a coach for midlife women like you, Christian women who want to learn to love themselves completely and enjoy the second half of their lives. I find so many women struggle with those transitions and relationships. I really do focus on relationships and communication. That is my forte. And so yeah, I was brought to life coaching because of my own struggles in my life. I think that's the story for so many life coaches is that we all have kind of something that we've struggled with ourselves. We got the help we needed, and then we made this decision to pay it forward and try to help other people as well. And so that really is the story for me. I my brother in 2007. So my history a little bit is like I was a school teacher and then I became a real estate agent and been a realtor for 25 years now. But um, in 2007, when the market crashed, my brother had become a life coach, and that was kind of before life coaching was even a thing. he,
Mhm.
he had to drive from Alpine, Utah to Denver, Colorado every weekend to take his training, which was really kind of cool. But he was also in real estate with me and a great mentor for me and taught me so many of those things that helped me at a time when my life was in a pretty low point. So I did a lot of work on my marriage, on my financial life, on just lots and lots of different issues, and always wanted to become a coach. But at the time it just wasn't feasible for me. I was in the throes of raising a family and I had a lot going on. So in 2018 I made the decision, I'm going to do this. It was just time. Things sort of aligned for me. I decided to go to school and got certified, and it's just the best thing I ever did. I just love this work. I love helping women. Women are my favorite.
Yeah.
I
We're the
just
best, aren't we?
love, we
We're
are, we're
the
the
best.
best. And it's just so fun because I think a lot of times people think women are so competitive. And I think really, I think at our hearts, we do want to lift each other. We want to help each other. We love each other. And there is this solidarity in kind of understanding what it's like to be a woman. And so anyway, it's just a beautiful, beautiful profession. And I love the people I serve. I live in South Jordan with my husband. We have 4 kids who are all adults at this point. Our youngest is 21. And then we have 4 awesome grandbabies that live about half hour away. So we get to spend
Oh,
lots of time with them and life
yeah.
is good. It's just
Good.
really, really a fun phase. I love being an
Yeah.
empty. Yeah.
And I don't think like ask me 10 years ago if I would think being an empty nester woman in the mid-season of life would be so fun. I probably wouldn't believe you. Right? Like it I don't know, my expectation wasn't very high of what it would be.
Yes.
Now I'm just like, this is amazing. This is so fun.
Yes, yes. Our brains tell us a story about the
Yeah.
dread, right? Like this is
Yeah.
gonna be horrible. The kids are gonna move away and we're gonna be sad
Yes.
and we forget to be forward focused and find the gifts that happen in the second half. And
Yeah.
there's so much here, so
So
much that's
much.
good. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So you have a coaching practice and you work with women in the mid-season, Christian women in the
Hmm.
mid-season of life. And
Right.
Jane just released her podcast called In the Middle. Is that what it is?
Happy in the middle.
Happy in the Middle. Yeah, we
Happy
got
in
to
the
throw
middle.
in the happy. Happy in the Middle. So I will include links to that so you can go and listen to that. But yeah, so fun. So previously we kind of talked about this idea of learning how to apologize. And I just loved that concept.
Yeah.
Let's talk to that a little bit.
Okay.
What do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean, like, learn how to apologize? What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, in any relationship, there are going to be ups and downs. We're human beings. We get offended, we offend. It just is part of our growing process to learn how to apologize sincerely and how to keep the relationship moving forward. I think that we live in a culture of cancel, right? Like if we are offended by someone, we just remove them from our lives. And I see this with so many of my clients. I don't know, I'm sure you experience this too, but lots of parents whose kids are just like won't speak to them ever again, or they just withdraw from one another's lives. And it's just not healthy. It's
Mhm.
not healthy for the relationship, but it's not healthy for us as individuals either. And so learning how to apologize is crucial to creating peace, not only for ourselves, but for our relationships too. And so, what is an apology? Let's just break it down a little bit. Like an apology is something that we do, it's kind of an act of declaring our regret, expressing our remorse, our sorrow for insulting someone or failing them in some way, for injuring them in one way or another, for harming or wronging them, right? And so it's sort of this gift that we give. And a lot of the time, we believe that the apology is a gift for the other person. But if we want to be emotionally mature, we have to learn to apologize for our own personal development. It's so important. So it's just one of those things that we have to learn as human beings in order to create more connection, more love, more understanding. And there's a lot to an apology that makes it good. Like if you have a kid and you say, and like this has probably happened for every mother here. We've watched a kid like hit their sibling or something and they're angry. And we say, hey, you need to tell your brother you're sorry.
Yeah.
And so they say, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's not sincere and it doesn't mean anything. Nobody is happy. It hasn't fixed anything. Well, a lot of us grow up this way, and that is the form our apologies take. And they're not sincere and they are meaningless. They don't create connection. And so learning how to apologize well is
Yeah.
really a good part of our emotional growth.
Yeah. What do you think? Um, I just want to explore this thought for a minute. Like, what keeps us from apologizing well? Do you
Yeah.
think? What
I think there's a
prevents that?
few things that make it hard. The first thing is there's lots of shame that comes with apologizing. When we've done something wrong, so many of us make it mean that we are wrong, right? That I am deficient as a human being. I am not worthy in one way or another. It takes a lot of vulnerability to kind of expose those tender parts of us to say, yes, I was wrong. I am flawed. I make mistakes. And when we can sort of in our brain associate that apology as a form of growth rather than admitting that there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with all of us, if we're
Yeah.
going to be honest about
Yeah.
it. Like everybody's weird. We all do
Yeah.
weird things. We all have problems. We all are imperfect in so many ways. And so just acknowledging that is so healthy and so freeing. It's like when we're trying to hide our imperfections, that's when it's really, really hard to apologize. We have to have a strong sense of self worth, not make it mean that there's something wrong with us. I think the other thing that I think about is too, there's societal expectations and pride, perhaps. So, like, how were you raised? What did your culture teach you about apologizing? Does that make you weak? Does that make you noble? And I've seen lots of different scenarios where both are true. Sometimes if you were grown up in a really masculine culture, real men don't apologize, right? Or if you admit that you're wrong, then you're weak, right? It's a courageous act to apologize. It is a strong, courageous, emotionally intelligent act. Whereas for most people, they associate it with a weakness or with being wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Tell me
like
your
it.
thoughts. Like, does that
Yeah.
ring?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think what I see is there's this, if I admit I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. like as a
Yeah.
person, right? Like
Mhm.
somehow me making a mistake or having to apologize means I'm just not good enough and I failed as being a good human.
Yeah.
And so that can like if we admit that, then we're wrong. Where I love how you said like it doesn't change our value, our worth. We're all messy people,
Yeah.
but we're also 100% valuable at the same time. Like both are true.
Yes.
Amazing and messy.
Yes.
And when we can embrace that, it makes it so much easier to take responsibility for those things that we want to do differently, or that maybe we can see that that's caused some harm for somebody. So I love
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that kind of leads me into the to the idea of what is a proper apology then, right? So
Yeah.
when we apologize, it's so important to really self-reflect, to really pressure yourself to take an honest look. It pressures us to look at ourselves in a way that we might not feel comfortable doing. Nobody likes to, I mean, we all beat ourselves up, right? I mean, that's just kind of the tendency that we have, is to beat ourselves up over things, but also to be really honest, not in the way that we're beating ourselves up, but just say, "Ooh, you know what? I did this thing. I'm not really proud of the way it did. It doesn't make me a worse person, but I really do have to take accountability for what I've done." To be able to reflect and find that peace. In coaching, we talk about finding the 2% that you did wrong. When someone is hurt, they really, what they want most is to know that you get it. They want to know you understand, hey, you have hurt me. And so an apology doesn't excuse our behavior. It doesn't explain why we did the behavior. It just says, look, I did this thing and I'm really sorry. I take full responsibility for my part without blaming the other person, without bringing up all the other valid points that you might have as to why this was deserved, or why this thing was said, or you did this so I reacted this way. It, like, all of that creates more drama. It doesn't create connection. It's like we're trying to, it's like a backhanded compliment where we're like saying sorry, not sorry, but sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
If you
know.
wouldn't have done this, then I would
Right.
never have shown up that way or would have done that thing. Right. Yeah. It's
Yes.
always it's a justification of like there's this need to justify behavior.
Yes.
Right? And so it's like, if we can just even let go of the need to justify it, and we
Yeah.
just accept that that's what we did, and
Yeah.
that not that we loved it, not that we don't want to do differently, but just accepting responsibility, then we can move forward. There's so
Yeah.
much power there. Yeah.
Right. And
So,
it's so important to come from a clean place. So processing our emotions of shame, our emotions of anger, all of that, like, we have to be sincere in our desire to repair. And so just saying, yep, I was wrong. But the tone, the intention, all of that coming with the apology is what really, really matters. Words are kind of meaningless. They will fall flat if they aren't accompanied by taking that responsibility, feeling sincere, offering true apology, and then maybe even asking, like, how can I make it right?
mhm,
How, what does it look like to make it right? So that's a question we can ask, like, what fixes this? Also, we can decide on our own. Listen, here's where I made a mistake, and this is what I'm going to do in the future to correct it. We can offer a solution. And the other thing, and this is something that I've learned through my studies, and I think it's Harriet Lerner. I love her work. She has some really great books, The Dance of Anger. She has one called Why You're Not Apologizing. Like, she's very good at relationship issues, but she talks about um, requesting forgiveness. So, this is something I really hadn't considered, because usually when we apologize, it's like we say sorry and then we expect the other person to say, oh, that's okay. Right.
mhm,
But for a majority of people, they want to be asked for forgiveness. And so, why we don't want to spend our time, and we don't teach our clients to try to manage other people's thoughts, that's really their work to do. what we do is what we are responsible for is the energy that we show up with in the world and the way that we present ourselves and the way that we respect the way other people think and believe. And so if it's important for someone else that that we ask for forgiveness, that's a gift that we can give. That's a gift that we can say, hey, listen, please forgive me. And
Mhm.
then let go of whatever it is that we expect them to respond with.
Yeah.
Right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's really so key. When we say sorry and we ask for forgiveness, then we will expect in our brain, oh, they will forgive me, right? But once I've asked for forgiveness and I've apologized sincerely, my job is done.
Yeah.
I can live in peace and integrity with myself. I've taken responsibility for what is mine. And now I let go of any need for a response or how this person's going to process that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so many times we think we just have this expectation about how other people will respond, and we have to understand that for a lot of people they need time to process, right? We do our part, we allow space, we just give space to people to react the way that they will.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just all about personal responsibility. um I'm trying to think. One of the most important things I think is, in order for us to show that we really do get it, it's so important to be very curious and to ask the questions, really listen to understand. This is a hard thing to incorporate, and also takes a lot of practice. And so many people, it's so uncomfortable to hear criticism or get feedback from someone that is negative. It's just so painful that they won't ask, they won't listen. But if you can pressure yourself to be a listener and really seek to understand where the other person is coming from, that makes your apology more meaningful, because you can really express, look, I get it. I understand why you are upset. And I'm
And
sorry.
I love how President Nelson, in I can't remember if it's this recent talk or which talk it was from. It might be the Peacemaker talk.
Yeah.
um, but just this idea of bridges of understanding, right? Like I think curiosity forms a bridge
Yes.
because it's not necessarily um thinking something's good or agreeing with somebody that they're doing something or thinking a certain way or whatever. But if we can just get curious, we can create a bridge to understanding that's going to help us, at the very least, have an understanding of where that other person's coming from, which
Totally.
then helps us, make sense of what's going on. But I loved kind of that visual of, you know, with understanding, we create a bridge. That curiosity forms a bridge to connect us, even though there's a river going through, right?
Yeah.
We're still
Yeah.
on two sides of the river with different opinions or whatever, but that bridge gives us that common ground of understanding, and it starts with curiosity.
Yeah.
I love that.
And here's the crazy thing. I was just coaching a client about this very thing this week, and she was just expressing so much frustration because she's got a daughter who has kind of shut her out of her life. And she's like, I am curious. I've asked 100 times. She won't reply.
Mhm.
And so there is this element that we can't be responsible for, right? People will do what they want. Our job on our end is to do our part, and then to not let the silence mean make it bigger than it is. Like, we have to allow space for people to process and respond in their time. Just even if you want to apologize for something and they won't listen, you're like, well, wait, I'm here, I'm ready to apologize, and she's not allowing me to apologize. That might be the case. So
Mhm.
what now? How do I show up as my highest best self? How do I continue to live my life in integrity with myself? If I'm allowing her response to constantly eat me up, then I'm not managing myself, right? It's not that we don't care. We clearly care, or it wouldn't hurt so much, but my work is to find joy. And so allowing space, continue to reach out, not let the silence affect me so that I fall into a puddle of depression, but just knowing I'm doing my part. The door is always open. When you're ready, I desperately want to hear. I
Yeah.
really want to listen. But we really have to hear it. We have to be willing to hear the hard things too, because it's coming, right?
Yeah.
When daughter decides she wants to be heard, she will come with double barrels,
Yeah.
probably.
Right. And so your work is to be prepared for that. Like, how do you
Yes.
want to show up when that occurs? And something that came up while you were talking was just this idea of like curiosity isn't just about the other person, it's curiosity about ourself. Like those questions that you just shared were self-reflection, was
Yeah.
self-curiosity. Like, how do I want to be? Like, how can I give her space and still reach out? How can I show up as my best self? How can I like that? There's two parts of that curiosity. It's curiosity for the other's perspective, but it's curiosity about, okay, now what? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What kind of energy do I want to bring to the conversation that will eventually come? Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
How do I prepare myself for that? What frame of mind do I need to be in to show up that way whenever it happens? And
Yeah.
can an apology be within at first? Like what if
Yeah.
the apology starts here and you really
Mhm.
feel it, and so then when it can be voiced, you really do mean it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have to always be spoken right off. It might take some percolating, right?
Right? Because sometimes we're not sorry. Sometimes we're
Yeah,
angry too. There are often times when there's a disagreement or a problem, both parties are hurting. Both parties are hurting. And I want to say, because this is something we all grapple with. Like, it wasn't my fault. This other person started it. They should be the one.
yeah,
And I love to teach my clients, look, you can be the tall poppy. You can be the one in the field that stands a little taller. You can raise your hand and say, I will go first.
yeah,
And there's peace in that. And I think it's always so important to reflect on, like, our greatest example is Jesus Christ. What does he like? What would Jesus do isn't just a bracelet. It really is a good question to ask ourselves. Like,
yeah,
how would he respond in this situation? How do I, as a daughter of heavenly parents, with that divine DNA, with that divinity, with that crown of glory on my head, how do I want to represent? How do I want to show up? How do I want to love? Do I want to love with conditions? Do I want to apologize with conditions? Do I want to be sincere? Can I be specific and clear? Can I own exactly what is mine? Right? I remember it was so cute. My grandma was hilarious. I just remember her. We lived in California. They lived near us, and she and my grandpa were having a little spat one day. And, and she said, I'm sorry you make me so angry. I was like, I had to think about that for a minute. I was
yeah.
like, I'm not sure that's an apology, grandma. I'm sorry you make me mad. I mean, like we've all felt that way, right?
Yes. Yes,
So
I love
cute. She was
that.
adorable.
Yeah, I love
Uh,
that. Well, and in some ways it is like it's this is getting to me, right? I'm sorry that it's getting to me. That
yeah. And sometimes that's the best we can offer, right? I'm
yeah,
sorry, I'm human. I'm having a human moment.
yeah,
I need a minute. Please let me breathe,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And instead of like spouting off like a whole string of infractions and anger, is just like, nope, I'm sorry. I need a moment. I'm not thinking clearly right now. Let me
yeah,
take a breath and find and recenter myself, and then we can talk.
yeah,
And I've done
yeah,
that so many times in my own relationships, and just saying, yeah, I need a minute. And
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
Taking the time that we need to figure out how we're feeling and what we want to do, what we want to say next with a clear head. Because really, when we're that angry, all of the blood flow
hmm,
just leaves the brain. We get in that fight or flight situation. We're not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
The blood literally leaves our brain. And so we're not at our best. We have to recenter, we have to breathe, we have to think, and then make decisions from a
Yeah.
smarter place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember once someone saying, and I've heard this since a few times, like, there's that old advice of don't go to bed angry, right? And it's like,
Oh,
oh,
worst
do
advice ever.
do go to bed angry. Do think about it.
Yes.
Like husband says this too, like the sun always comes up the next day, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, things always look better in the light of the day, not
Hmm.
at 10 p.m. as you're trying to go, it's like, and I think you can use that in any relationship, not just marital, but just like maybe you got to have a space of angry away
Hmm.
and revisit it, give yourself that pause.
Yeah.
Something I teach my clients is the pause principle, right? And
Yeah.
it's just, there's so much power in pausing, and that apology will come across way better if you
Yeah.
allow some space before and after it,
Right.
right? Like just
Right.
let it have its cushion of space.
Yes. And I think so many times we feel like we're owed an apology too. Like if I apologize, this person should apologize for their part.
Yeah.
And I get it. I want it too. We all in a perfect world would want that. But again, when we're waiting for someone else to do something in order for us to feel well or whole or happy, we're delegating again our emotional health to them. And so it's so important to be patient, to be understanding, to set boundaries where needed. Like there's no, just because you are good at apologizing does not mean you're a doormat. Like we're not trying to say you must be the only one in the room and who cares about this situation. You have to take all the responsibility. That's really not it at all. It's saying I'm going to own what's mine. I'm going to take responsibility for that. I am going to show up for myself in a way that I'm proud of, and then I'm going to give it to God. I'm going to like allow it to be what it will be. But I lay my head down on the pillow tonight and I am peaceful about
Yes.
what I've done.
I love that you said that because I was just coaching a couple of people on this, and what I did was like, let's go to tonight, or
Mhm.
like the night after this thing happens
Yeah.
and you're laying down to bed. Do you want to be proud of who you were, or are you going to feel like you didn't do what you would have liked to? Right.
Right.
And so
Right.
keep that end in mind when you lay your head at night. How do you want to view you
Yeah.
in this relationship and how you showed up? So I love how you said that, because I just think there's so much power to consider that, because how many times have we laid our head down and we can't sleep
Yeah.
because of how we showed up in a relationship, and it just eats us up, right?
Yeah.
And so if we can keep that end in mind, that's going to fuel us to show up way different regardless of how the other person is, right? Like
Totally.
if someone can be a jerk and we can still be sorry for
Mhm.
our part.
Right.
Mean
That's
we love the
exactly
jerky
it.
part, right? It doesn't mean we
Yes.
love their jerkness. But we don't have to be mad at our jerkness.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think too, really cultivating an appreciation for the relationships in our lives is so important. Tomorrow's not promised. So many of us
Yeah,
think, "Oh, it'll work itself out with time."
yeah,
But listen, when there's an apology that's needed, it's a barrier. It really
yeah,
is a barrier. It is
yeah,
a wall that comes up between us and it doesn't go away until this is handled.
yeah,
And it was so interesting as I was trying to like fix my relationship with my husband. When I hit that middle age area, I was just like, "Oh my goodness, I don't know if I want to keep choosing this." And I had been pretty self-righteous in our relationship, I think. And when I came to the realization of how I had harmed my husband, how I had hurt him, oh, I was so full of remorse. And so apologizing to him was the most cleansing, beautiful, connecting thing that I think I've ever done. And it was something that changed the whole scope of our relationship. And I'm living the fruits of it now. Like we're the best. We are
Yeah.
the best. We have so
Yeah.
much fun together. We
Yes.
truly enjoy each other. But if I hadn't done that work, if I hadn't made that choice to claim what was mine, to own and take responsibility for ways that I'd harmed him, I don't think that I would be able to enjoy what I'm enjoying today. So
Mhm.
it's crucial. It's important.
Yeah.
And we don't have all the time in the world. We
Yeah.
don't. It's just the fact of life that things continue on. And so it's so important to, pray for that help, pray for that strength. Like, help me be the better person, be a better person, not the better person, not better than the other person, just a better person. Help me be strong enough to do this hard thing, to be vulnerable, to say, hey, listen, I screwed up
Yeah.
and my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I've talked a lot about this on my podcast, this concept of repentance, right? We're all very familiar with
Yeah.
that term, and we're commanded to repent daily. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, what am I doing? They have to repent every day, but it's, if you look at the definition, it's changing our perspective. It's seeing as he sees, feeling as he feels, and doing as he does. And I
Yeah.
think that totally applies to when an apology is needed, or we need to correct something, repair something, right? If we can get his perspective, if we can see that other person as he sees them, and even
Mhm.
see ourselves as he sees us, right?
Yes.
That will help us show up in a way that is just feels so much better, and infuses energy and beauty into a relationship that once was broken. But it
Yeah.
really does. I think that's why we're commanded to repent every
Yeah.
day, because who doesn't need a shift of perspective every day,
Totally.
especially when we're in relation with other people? Like,
Yeah.
we just need a constant perspective shift, because
Right.
that's part of relationship.
Yeah. Maybe I'll share something. This is a pretty tender experience, but it happened, and I think it's worth sharing because um, I think I think so many people can relate to it. But someone close to me made a comment about our religion, our church, that was really, really derogatory, and it was offensive. And I remember being so angry and hurt. And later that night in my bathroom, as I was kind of mulling it over, I'm getting ready for bed. I just kind of said, I'm so sorry, God, I'm so sorry this thing happened. And I just remember hearing so clearly, don't be offended for me. I'm good.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
was so powerful. And I
Yeah.
think, like, we sometimes will carry a battle that doesn't need to be carried, right? Like,
Mhm.
drop the war. How can we drop the war?
Yeah.
And if we'll just drop that end edge of our tug of war and just drop it, allow the other person to be right. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just allow other people to think and be however they want to be, and give them the grace and the gift of that, and give the same thing that we want for ourselves, right? It's just
Mhm.
exactly what we want for ourselves, is that ability to think what we want. And we get to choose, do we want to be offended, do we not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's so good. And it just makes you think of that scripture story, the anti-Nephi Lehites, they're bearing their weapons of war.
Yeah.
And what are those weapons that we carry that prevent us from connecting with the people in our life, or
Yeah. And one of those
apologizing?
big weapons is a grudge. It's
Yeah.
the grudge,
Yeah.
right? And it is a weapon because it does hurt us as
Mm,
well as the other person. It
yeah.
does
It's,
spiritual harm,
yeah.
right?
And don't you
So,
think, like, when you think of forgiveness, and the Savior says 70 times 7, it's because it's so important for
yeah,
us. So
exactly.
important for us.
Yeah.
That's
It's everything. It really is. It's about living in integrity with ourselves so that we are doing, or we're walking our walk, right? We're not just talking about being followers of Christ. We actually are. We are doing what we say, which is to forgive 7 times 7. And again, it's not a gift for someone else. It's the gift we give ourselves.
Yeah. So there's two parts here, right? Like there's the person that's apologizing, and then there's the person that's being apologized to, right?
Oh, yeah.
Both sides of an apology needs um needs that shift in perspective, and setting down the weapon. Both sides need to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
But we can't require it from the other side, right?
Right. Right.
Like
It's just we got
we
to look at
want it for
side
them
or
because
we.
we know it will bring them peace. We know it will bring them, joy and solace, but to require it from someone else is again putting ourselves out of
Yeah.
our lane. It's not our business. Once
Yeah.
we've given our apology, our sincere apology, we've given that love unconditionally, without excuse, without explanation, without justification, then we're good. We're good
Yeah.
with God because that's what he wants for us, to be
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. So whatever side we're on, the person we look at is ourselves.
Yes.
How do I show up my best as either the apologizer or the apologizee? Like, who
Yes.
is that person? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is so fun, Jane. I could talk to you all day.
I know. It's
We
so
have
great to see
we
you.
have similar niches, and we just have a passion for helping women live their best life in this season of life. So I love it so much. So if people want to learn, well, let me ask this last final question. If there's one thing that you, and I didn't tell you this ahead of time,
It's
but if
okay.
there's one thing that you hope that somebody would take from this conversation that they could start doing today, like just something that might help them moving forward in this process of apologizing or accepting apology or whatever, like what is it that you hope these women take from this conversation?
I think the very first step is always going to be to love yourself unconditionally. I think this is what holds us back in so many ways. But if we can love ourselves in spite of our flaws, with all of our flaws, it's easier to love other people with their flaws too. And so it's pretty tough to apologize when we're already hating ourselves. But if we can come from that place of love and love ourselves and know that our worth is solid and good and that we are divine, like feel that to our bones, which I think that is the best work we do in coaching is to help women love themselves the way that they should. That comes first. It's pretty hard to drink from an empty well. So love yourself, not in a way that you're like, oh, I'm everything and I'm, conceited about it, but just really understanding I have value no matter what I do. It's, I was born with this value. I am 100% worthy, whether I make mistakes or not. That's just part of the human condition. And if I can make peace with that in myself, then it's much easier to make peace with other people too.
Yeah, so true. So true. Beautiful. Okay. If people want to find you, learn more about you, tell us all the things. How can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at my website, janecopier.com. It's Copier, like copier. It's just a funky Dutch name. And you can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group, a Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok. I think, the midlife coach on TikTok. And I have a podcast, like you said, Happy in the Middle. So I would love to have you listen.
Yes.
And thanks for having me today. It's just
Oh,
been
it's been,
so
yeah,
great.
so fun. Thank you for taking the time to be on today. It was a really good conversation, and I think people are going to pull some really good things from it. So, thank you
Beautiful.
for being here.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a rating and review. If you'd like to learn more about what life coaching is, please schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work together through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to my website, seasons-coaching.com, and you can also find information about my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.